Oh, my pleasure, Michael. It's a new time for all of us.
Well, yeah, it certainly is. So the first question is, are you working from home right now?
I am. I am. So I guess I'm leading into this with some expertise. I've been doing some portion of my job like this for over 10 years.
All right, so then you've got some experience. Now, it didn't occur to me that managers would have difficulty figuring out how to deal with remote employees, but I guess you want to keep productivity up. So, how does that work?
I think with if it's managers who are really new to managing remote employees, one of the best advice I can give them is manage by clear expectations. And so rather than trying to micromanage your staff, really focusing on your goals, and to be frank, leading from a place of trust. It's sometimes tempting to assume that people who are working remote are just slacking, but I found many times it's the opposite. People have a hard time establishing boundaries on when to shut off from work.
So, if the employee works, say, 9 to 5 in an office or some other workplace, does the manager tell that person you have to work those same exact hours at home, or do you allow the employee some flexibility to work? Maybe they want to get up and use the time that they would normally spend in traffic. Maybe I'll start working at 7:30, and I'll
Exactly.
kick off earlier. Do you allow them that flexibility?
I know I have because I do manage by outcomes and expectations and hitting goals. So I tend not to say you have to do it on a certain regimented schedule. But I think this is the conversation that an employee and a manager have to have together and say, what are the expectations, so that at least they're aligned. What I would suggest in time, since people are new, is say, let's try it. Let's see. Sometimes people feel uncomfortable agreeing to something new because they feel like they're locked into it. But if you want to have that conversation with an employee or your manager and saying, let's try for a couple of days, me having a more flexible schedule, knowing that I'm still hitting my deadlines, and we're not sort of constrained by that 9 to 5 way that you were working in the past.
We are talking with Kerrian Fournier, the CEO at Vybrante Ventures, who works with managers and employees. We're talking about how are we all going to manage in this world for a while we are supposed to be working at home. Now, we've talked about the thing mostly from the vantage point of the employer. Now, what about the employee? Now, everybody thinks, oh, if I could just work from home, I wouldn't have to, put a suit or a tie on or, wear stockings, and I don't have to worry about the commute. This will be great. I can have coffee whenever I want, have lunch, take a nap. It's going to be great. Now, what's the reality?
Oh, the reality is quite a bit different. I remember the first time I worked remote, and I was one of those people that had a hard time establishing boundaries. And I looked up one day and I had my breakfast cup and dishes, my lunch cup and dishes, and my dinner cup and dishes all in front of me. I think the only time I got up was to get food and go use the restroom. And that was bad. So this parable is to set boundaries, set a schedule so that there are times you're not just looking at your computer, you're not feeling like you always have to prove you're working, and get up. Spend time, even if it's walking around your house, straightening up something other than just being in work mode. It's really critical. I know there are times I had to also lock my animals in a different room. My little fluffies are adorable, but at times distracting. And so I just found the things that were enhancing my productivity and the things that were detracting from it.
Some people get lonely. They feel isolated if they're alone. So what do we do with those people? Is there something they can do to not feel like they're all by themselves, and maybe that they might find that a distraction?
Absolutely. And this is something I know I had to work into as well. One thing that's a nice new technology, it's not the same as being in person, but video conferencing. You can see people's facial expressions. It can feel a little bit more informal and conversational. From a productivity perspective, as a manager, I can say it also helps reduce the multitasking because you can kind of see when people are leaning, looking down and texting, whatever. But aside from the productivity angle, it is certainly a more human-friendly interaction mode.
If this goes on for more than a few weeks, I mean, if the months stretch on, is this something that could leave a permanent impact when this is over, it'll just stay telecommuting?
It's interestingly enough, generationally, millennials and now coming up Gen Z particularly expect a more flexible workforce and a more modern model as far as how and when they get their work done. So I think the narrative in the past where companies said it will never work, it can't work, will now be gone. And the question is really, should it, and how do we fold this into our culture in the most effective way?
All right. Well, is there anything I haven't asked about that you think needs to be mentioned?
I just think, remember, everyone, that you are all learning. You're learning about your own preferences. Your teammates are as well, your manager. Give people the benefit of the doubt. If you're getting a lot of email communication, you lose context. Assume the benefit of the doubt. Pick up the phone, have conversations, and let's work through this together.
All right. Kerrian Fournier is CEO at Vybrante Ventures, and she's been telling us how to get ready to the brave new world of telecommuting, working at home. Thanks for being with us on First Light.
My pleasure, Michael.